Hello students, how are you? So let us start today's class, and today we are going to discuss about the very important chapter, that is light and shadow and their reflection. We are going to talk about what is light, what is shadow, how the light is different from the shadows, and how the shadows are formed, what is the role of reflection. We will talk about all those things, and also we will talk about what kind of the objects, nature of the objects, whether the lights are present in that object, and or that is the other object is dependent for another, by which we are getting the reflections. How these what kind of the different objects by the things can be seen. Basically, we will discuss about the some basic concept about light, and also we will discuss about the some properties of light, whereas after that we will talk about what is shadow and what is the how these shadows are formed. We will discuss, and very good chapters for you to understand this chapter. You have to study for a um, longer period of time, from 6 7 8 9, and then the as well as in 10th also you will get this chapter in class 12th in detail form. But the basic things which is required to understand the basic concept which we are going to discuss is very fundamental things, how the lights are formed, whether the objects is what kind of the objects by which we can see the things. Now let us start today's session. Here just again I used here also the highlighter so that you can understand. Now what you can observe within these pictures, here there is a boy, and there is a sunlight, and here there is a flower, and this flower is basically seen by this boy. What happened here, when the lights comes in the dark, we assume that if there will be the dark, whether the boys this boys will able to see this object. No, because there is a no, and nothing is related to nothing. No, nothing is present here by which he can see this object. And but in case of sunlight, the object can be seen by the pupils very clearly. So what happened? What why this kind of the things happen? We will going to talk about. Here we have to understand in this slide, which what we want to show you, that there is a flower, and the flower in dark, there is a flower cannot be seen, but in case of sunlight, if the light is present, what happened, we can observe it. Why these kind of the things happen, on which basis these are categorized, and this is the fundamental things which we have to understand here. There are the two kinds of the objects. One kind of object is basically known as a luminous object, and another kind of object is basically a non-luminous object. The luminous object, like the sunlight, the fire, and the light of bulb. These are the these kind of the object which carries their own light. The object which basically carries their own light, they are called basically a luminous object, because sun has their own light, because of own light. The sun can be seen everywhere. But in case of bulb also, though we provide some kind of the external things, but the light which is present in the bulb is their own. That's why the kind of the object which carry their own light, that kind of the object is basically a luminous object. And if we talk about the non-luminous object, the kind of the object which we cannot see, or we call as a there is a no light in that object, that is called the non-luminous object. Because we whatever we can see, just because of the some reflections we get from the other sources, because of that reflection we can see that object. Here it is very clear that in case of luminous object, all these things, if there is a fire, the fire creates the light. In that fire, all we can see the object. But in case of if there is a dark and there is a book, and that book cannot be seen in a dark. That's why the kind of the fundamentals which is involved here, since the books have has their no light, and because of this kind of the object is basically a non-luminous light. And if there is a some kind of the flash came from that kind of the object, and that kind of the object is basically a luminous object. You can observe here pen. And here the another things which is mentioned, by which you gets more clarity, that is the moon. Moon has no light, but why we can see it, because when the ever the reflections came from the from the sunlight, when the reflections came from the earth, and because of that reflection we can see this kind of the uh, moon from the earth. So the again the moon is a not a luminous object; it is a non-luminous object. You can see here there is a many things I have shown here. That is chair, pen. When we talk about trees, these are the kind of the things which we cannot see. But these things we cannot observe in absence of the um, other external sources, but these can be seen and without the absence of these external sources, that is the sunlight. So these are the cases by which we can understand what is luminous and what is non-luminous object. Here also the pictures or name are given here. With that things you can categorize whether these kind of the objects are luminous object or non-luminous object. You can understand from here. If you talk about the star is a luminous object. When we talk about the book is a non-luminous object. Plastic is again non-luminous object. Fire is a luminous object because it carry only their own object. And when we talk about the gloom worm. Gloom worm is again a luminous object. The sun is a luminous object. A lit candle is again a luminous. Trees is not a luminous object. It is a non-luminous object. Whereas radium is a luminous object. Moon is a non-luminous object. And firefly is a luminous object because it carries their own light. And when we talk about cloth is a non-luminous object because it has no inbuilt light. So here we are just have understanding in small understanding with about what is a luminous object and what is not non-luminous object. We are going to talk about the some fundamentals of light. And the light is basically a form of energy and electromagnetic radiation. Here it provides the energy. Why it provides the energy? Wherever there is a the it is basically a particle, and this kind of the particle has a dual nature, which which shows the wave as well as the um, oscillation wave and energy. And here there is a energy kind of the things, as well as this light is a electromagnetic radiation. When there is a light are flowing a particular kind of the object, with the presence of that moving of and electrons surrounding that path, the magnetic field also created. That's why light is not only giving the energy, it also provides the some electromagnetic radiation wherever these kind of the um, things are passed. Light is a luminous object, and these are the luminous object. Most luminous object are release amount of heat whenever, like fire basically heat. uh, it is a luminous object, and it basically release the heat. Non-luminous object reflect light from a luminous object. When we talk about the non-luminous kind of the object, it is basically a reflections. That kind of the scene we can see with the help of the reflection of light. Here again, the luminous object emit light on their own. Like example here written, all these things are luminous object, whereas non-luminous objects do not give out light on their own. These kind of the things are not basically um, emit the light on their own, and that kind of the object is basically a non-luminous object. Here the moon, tree, hand, earth, these are the non-luminous object. Again, you can see here the in this cartoon there is a one these are this, with the help of the glass, this girls can see by themselves, and this is the reflection. And whereas when sun is a luminous, and when we talk about uh, moon is a non-luminous object. Here also you can see these are the non-luminous object, this is the non-luminous object. We have already I have already told. And when the light falls on an object, some of light gets reflected. The reflected light comes to our eyes, as in case of the Initius light. I have shown you in the reflection when the light um, falls on the object, and that false light by which we can see the object. Here there is a two types of material. One is known as um, different types of material, that is known as the transparent, translucent, and opaque kind of the things. The transparent, the kind of the things, materials by which we can see the light can pass, light pass through them. And these kind the we can see from this kind of the material, like glass, by which we can see both the side, that is the transparent object. And there is a some kind of the materials by which we can allow some small amount of light which pass from them. That means other side of the object we cannot see very clearly. And in case of opaque, there is a materials, if we the lights will not pass from that materials, and that kind of the things is basically a opaque materials. Here you can see the transparent kind of the object by which you can see both the side, whereas in translucent kind of the things you can see the other side but not clear, and this kind of the things which is known as opaque material, and from these materials you cannot um, see other sides. Now the reflection which we are talking about is basically we are talking about the how this with the help of that reflection the shadows are formed, and and for that shadow there will be the some kind of we use to show that material by which the shadows are formed, that is called opaque. When there is a opaque object, when there is a opaque object, when there is a opaque object is placed on the path of light, when from where the source, if the object light is coming, and if in between that light if we put some opaque object where is a dark portion is formed, and that dark portion where the formation of this dark portion basically a opposite side of side on the of the object on the screen, that dark position which is formed on the opposite side of the object on the screen. This dark portion is basically called as a shadow. Now the size of shadow depends on the distance of source of light. This sometimes we have seen that you can observe that some shadows are small but some shadows are large. Why this difference are take place? Because of the the lights which is coming from that particular object. If it is at a long distance, then the shadow will become a big, and if it is a larger smaller distance from the object, then it is a small in size. So the size of shadow depends on the distance of the source of light and the angle at which the light rays fall on the object. Two things which is very important: size of the object as well as the angle on which the lights are coming. And the second one, if the source of light is closer to the object, a large shadow is formed, whereas in case of the said the light is longer than that object, then it is formed as a small in object. The shadow can be seen only on a screen. This shadow only, the questions can be asked. The shadow can be seen everywhere. No, the shadow cannot be seen everywhere. It is seen only on a screen. When you are moving from a path, then your shadows are made, and these shadows basically the reflection of light from the opaque object, and that opaque object is based on the shadows are formed on the earth. That's why from that shadow the earth is become a screen. The ground wall of the room or a building, or we call as another such as you can see the shadow can be used on screen, the ground wall or a room, building or other such surface are act as a screen for the shadow you observe in everyday life. Now the ground. These are the things. The shadow sometimes gives lot of information about the object. Shadow are in a black color. This is not changed by the color of the opaque object. Always whenever the shadows are formed, this formation is basically a black in color. It is not black in color. You can see here black in color, and this is not changed by the color of the opaque object. That means shadows are not depend on the uh, color of the opaque object. It is independent, and always we get the shadow in black color. So a red and yellow rose will have a same black shadow. That's why always the shadow of rose and yellow rose, we will get the black. Here the you can see the different pictures. The light is coming from this source, and when this is the opaque object, when these opaque objects, the reflections are uh, coming here in the form of the black, and it is a shadow. Here you can see also when there is a light which is directly coming from this source to the earth, but when we kept the in between this, um, in between the light, any kind of the opaque object, what we are observing a kind of the shadow. Here with the help of our different position of our um, different position of our fingers, we can make a shadow. And I hope that you will observe, practically do at your home this kind of the things, by using this kind of the finger in front of the light which is coming from your tube light, or somewhere else on the screen for you. The screen will be as a wall, and you can see, if you make these pictures on a wall, you will get all these kind of the pictures on your wall by putting your finger in different situations. These are the different situations where the pictures shadows are made. This part we will discuss after in the next class. What you have to do, you have to understand about the light. After the light, you have to discuss about the properties of light, which is mentioned in and the introduction part. Another things which you have to understand, that is called the luminous and non-luminous object. What are the different examples of luminous and non-luminous object? Also, the kind of the materials, that is the translucent, transparent, as well as opaque object. After that, how what is shadow and how these shadows are formed, and do one practical things which I already told, by using the different directions of your finger, as shown in the that slide, and make the different kind of the situation of the shadows. So this is all about the today's topic. We will start the pinhole camera tomorrow with the new topic. Thank you for today's